I want to give you an introduction to Figma. Um, Figma is, it's of course the best UI design tool on the market today as we speak. Today is the 30th of March, 2024. So I believe maybe in 2099, there would be another tool that would be called, I don't know, ABCD, that will be really, 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 really good. And it won't know what Figma was even all about. So that shows you that things keep on changing. At first, we had Adobe. We had Photoshop that was used to design websites. But with time, we've been having so many tools in between there, InVision, Adobe XD. But anyway, finally, we have a tool that I think is it's simple, but although currently they're adding on to the list of things you need to learn in order to be able to use this tool effectively. So as designers, I urge you to pick interest into using this tool because it's first and foremost simple to use and it's user friendly. It's fast, doesn't lag, and you can do quite a lot. And they also have a free plan that I'm going to be using to actually take you through what Figma is all about. Figma is it's really quite a tool. Yeah, that's what I can say. It's a tool that if at all you're a graphic designer, if at all you've been a photographer that has been working in maybe Photoshop, or if at all you have like any prior knowledge of how to create rectangles online, fill them, resize them, organize them in a way that makes sense. You can actually start using Figma and make your posters in there or any designs that you want that have nothing to do with UI design. So as a designer, I've used Figma to do quite a number of things. For example, UI design. I use it to create posters. I use it to create logos, icons. Realize that you can literally use it for actually a couple of things. For as long as you're not doing like heavy editing. For as long as it's just just simple boxes here and there, because that's what the web is all about. The web, it's just boxes and rectangles, lines, squares, circles. Some people actually put triangles. Speaking of that, let me just bring you to this config website for Figma. The one that like the one that shows you that what these boxes and triangles and rectangles, how they can be expressed and what you can actually do, or just to show you that everything is just just boxes. For example, this button, and you can actually do a lot with rectangles and shapes and all of these things. I believe this was also actually created in Figma because this is Figma's website. It's for the config sort of like conference. So you realize that they use a lot of shapes, which shows you that the web is it's just shapes. And as a designer, one should actually realize that the web is just made of shapes. Shapes here, shapes there. Organize them in a logical way that makes sense. Make sure that those boxes are enjoyable. Don't just throw them there. Don't just put them in a manner that doesn't make sense. always just get to know that that is how the web is. And once you actually know how to organize these boxes, realize that you will also try to understand, how CSS actually works eventually, and then you'll also learn HTML, JavaScript, and then you can actually continue with your web journey and then web design and all of that. So, getting back to our presentation, first thing you need to actually get to know is that Figma is like a pen, because there are so many pens out there, and it's what you do with the pen that actually really matters. Because you can actually throw away this pen and then get another one that is actually different, with a different color, and it has all these differences. So this shows you that what you actually use Figma for is what actually really matters. Because at the end of the day, what you can do in Figma, you can do in 30 other tools also. So this shows you that although Figma is a very important tool, it's like a pen. You can use different pens, but eventually what you actually use them for is what really matters. So keep that at the back of your mind as a designer, that I'm using Figma as a pen to write, but in this instance, I'm just drawing. So what am I actually drawing? Is it actually making sense, or what I'm actually designing to actually actually make more sense? What am I designing in this instance that is going to help me craft better user experiences? Because at the end of the day, you realize that design is not all about these boxes I showed you here, the rectangles and the circles. Design is all about the experience you get from using a specific product. So poor user experience means the product failed. Like, it has failed to accomplish its specific purpose. Because even if someone actually gets value from a specific product, but it nags them, it makes them feel bad, that means that that product at the end of the day, it will be not usable, because of the kind of emotions it triggers within the user. So always get to know that boxes, shapes, rectangles can be created using Figma, but you should do that to aim to trigger a specific feeling. I don't know which type of feeling this website actually triggers, but to me, I feel like this was sort of like a way to show you, what this conference is all about, the values, or what Figma is even all about. So to me, I think with this specific animation on this website brings all about excitement. So it brings excitement first and foremost, because for someone to actually buy a ticket to go somewhere, they need to be excited, otherwise they'll actually stay home. So you need to find a way of amusing them, show them that what they're going for is actually going to be good. And I think whoever did this actually managed to achieve that, because this is really an interesting animation. So get to know that Figma is just a tool that you can use to craft things, but you can also use another tool, because Figma is just like a pen. Moving on, the next thing is if you want a link to Figma, it's actually right here. Just go to figma.com, create an account, and then once you create an account, you'll be able to actually create a new file. So what I'm going to do is, for me, I already have like an account with Figma. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create a new file that we can use to go through these different areas that I'm actually going to present next. So let me just close this. So the next thing you need to know about Figma, after creating an account and creating a new file, how do you create a new file? Once you create an account Of course, the next thing to do is to be presented with a new file, and then you can actually save that file, and then you can get to do what you want in Figma. But regardless, I'm going to be taking you through these three areas: the nav bar, the sidebar, and then the right menu. So right here, this assumes that I've already created an account with Figma, and I've created a new file. So this file is just called untitled. So we can actually just call it maybe our test file. This can be our test file. So the first area I want to take you through is the nav bar. So the nav bar is just this area, this dark strip here that you're seeing. This dark strip that has these tools. For example, this move tool, the cursor itself. They also have the scale tool. They have the frame tool, and then they have the selection, slice. They have these shape tools, the ones they use to create the animation that you've been seeing. And then they also have like these tools, the pen, text, and then they also have the component section. They have the hand tool for moving things. You just pinch and move. You also have the comment. The comment tool, you can add a comment to your design. I think you can see. Figma is a really good application, so you just need to always get to know that. So on this same nav bar, we also have this area where the name of your file actually appears. So you can actually use this menu to actually do things with your file, like exporting it and then duplicating it, renaming it, moving it to another project, and then these other things like even deleting it. So then at the far end, so on the right, we have this area that shows your profile. For example, this is me. And then you can actually also share this file. You can also actually enter dev mode. This is for devs. Once you come up with the design, you can see the underlying HTML, CSS that actually makes up that specific design. So we also have this prototype tool, the one that you can use to prototype. So, or is don't forget that you can use this tool to always present your work. For example, you can actually make a design and then you can actually present it to the stakeholders and then your teammates. Then the last thing on this nav bar we have is this area that you can use to actually zoom in within your specific design. So I'm going to be taking you through most of these tools and then these areas. So guys, the next area I'll take you through this sidebar. So that sidebar is this one here that you're seeing. So for this one, what you actually see is first and foremost the number of pages that you have. Or if I told you on a free plan, you can actually create many pages. But if I told you share this specific file with others, you only be limited to 3 specific pages. On top of that, you can also see your assets together with searching. You can also search for something here. So always get to know that. So right here, these are actually tabs. Under the layers tab, we have the pages, assets, and you can also sort of like hide or show the specific pages that you have. So you can also actually rename by double clicking on this specific area for the name of this specific page that you have. Then you can actually create other pages. So that is what happens under this specific area. Once you add something to this specific area, this working area, it will actually appear under here. So let me just create a frame here. So I think you can see I added a frame, and then you can actually also rename this frame together with its name. So that is what happens. So moving on to the next area. The next area I want to take you through is the right menu. So for the right menu is this one right here. So under this right menu, you'll find first and foremost, the first tab is the design tab. So this design tab is where the properties of what you've selected will appear. So as you can see, once I select this frame, its properties will actually appear down here. So the properties of this frame, you can actually see where it is in terms of the y and the x-axis. So that is actually the specific canvas, the area where this canvas is. So the area where this frame is on the canvas. So together with its dimensions, the width and the height, you can also actually rotate it. So this is the angle at which it's actually rotated. It's at 0. You can also change its corners. You can also, make sure that the content that actually overflows is clipped. You can also add auto layout. You can add the layout grid, which will help you to actually make sure that your components or your elements are all aligned perfectly. You can also fill it using this area. You can change the color of the fill to anything that actually suits you. Moving on, you can also add a stroke. As you can see, you can make sure that this stroke is really big. You can make that's actually really big. 12 is actually better. You can also change the color. Then moving on, you can also add other effects, for example, like a drop shadow, and then lastly, you can also export it. You can download it as a PNG, JPEG, or you can also download it as an SVG. SVG is just a scalable vector graphic. This is like those vector graphics that actually can scale to any specific dimensions to fill specific container. You can also export it as a PDF. But let me actually export this frame as a PNG so that you can see it downloading up there. Export. Yeah, it's been downloaded. So moving on, the next point I want to take you through these main tools in Figma. For example, the frame tool, the pen tool, the fill tool, the rectangle tool. Now, these to me are the main tools because with these tools, you can literally, play around with, the UI elements. Then on top of which you can actually use other tools. I already showed you the frame tool, but anyway, I can actually show it to you. So the frame tool is actually found on this area that we actually called the nav bar. So this is the nav bar, and this is actually the sidebar. So don't actually confuse don't actually confuse them. This right here is the nav bar. This is the sidebar. This is the working area, and this right here is the right menu. Guys, for the main tools in Figma, the first tool is the frame tool. So in order to actually create a frame, come right here on the nav bar, and then after this move tool, you will find this tool called the frame tool. The frame tool is just does what its name says. It's for framing. So supposedly you'd want to for example, create an input box. You first of all have to create a frame. A frame is just a sort of like your canvas that you're going to use to actually paint or draw. So in this instance, you need to actually create a frame. And to do that, just select this specific area for the frame, not section, not slice, but frame. And then find an area, starting area, where you want, for example, to start, indicating your frame. So once you find that area, click, hold, and drag to a size that you want, reasonable size, depending whether you're actually designing for the web, tablet, or maybe the phone. So apart from that, you can also create frames, by adjusting the width. You can adjust the width like this, or you can actually adjust the height like that, and also input a number. And then you can also find other ways to actually create frames, but this is like the most common way. Just click the tool, then drag, and then change the dimensions using these areas here. So apart from that, we also have a pen tool. The pen tool is just after this rectangle tool. So the pen tool and the rectangle tool can also work together to create shapes. But the pen tool is essentially the same pen tool that you find in Illustrator. But this one, you can do things differently. That actually requires you to edit this rectangle in a way that you want. For example, in Illustrator, you can't add strokes this way. You can't add multiple strokes on this specific rectangle, and you cannot add multiple fields. I think you cannot also dictate whether where your stroke should actually pass. Is it like the center, outside, or inside? So you realize that's what the pen tool does. The pen tool is just that helps you create custom shapes that you'd want to include in your design work. And I don't know which custom tools you can actually include, but you can create and then fill, just like how you can actually do in Illustrator. So you can actually do that, and then you can actually fill. So what a frame does is it doesn't allow you to take objects off of it. I see. Once I try taking this, triangle off of this frame, the area that is outside won't be displayed, because what this frame does is to frame, these elements that you're using. So moving on, the next tool is the fill tool. I think we've been filling things, so you can actually just create something. For example, just create something off of the canvas, or sorry, the frame, and then I can actually remove these strokes, and then I'll just use this fill tool. Just need to add a fill, and then you can actually add, a color code here that you want. You can paste it there, or you can just use this sort of like scroller to kind of pick the color that you want. So that is what the fill tool does. Then the next tool is the rectangle tool. The rectangle tool is actually going to really help you. By the way, not forgetting, once you're done creating a specific shape, you need to actually click on this done button. But I think you can also just be done by clicking outside of that shape like that. Moving on, the rectangle tool is just a rectangle tool. But apart from that, we also have like a line tool, arrow, ellipse, polygon, star, and then the place image or video tool. So the rectangle tool, you just need to draw rectangles like that, like quite a lot of rectangles. You just delete all of these. So to do that, just click on this rectangle tool right here, and then click somewhere, hold, and then drag. You can also actually change the size of this. You can make it a little bit bigger. You can change the height, get a little bit taller. Come here in another fill, change the fill to something else. So this can be like a background that you can use. You can also place your input boxes like this. So a rectangle tool can help you create input boxes. Then you can also remove the fill and also add a stroke instead. You can also change the color of the stroke to make it a little bit light. So you realize that on top of these tools, I will also have like a text tool, which is also really important because the web is full of text. So the text tool just has this T. I think the text tool is actually the same sort of like, it has like the same symbol with that text tool in Adobe Illustrator. So you just click on it and click on somewhere where you want to add text, and then you can add some text. For example, I can add some text here, and this can actually act as a label for our specific input box. So you can have two labels. We paste that, two labels. So I think you can see with just a few tools, we already have something. So moving on, you can actually play around with Figma using this file that I created. So I created a file here called Skiller. It's my sort of like work, so don't fear, copying it. It's actually in the community already. So I can actually come, copy, make a copy of this file, and then you can play around with these tools because I believe, you can learn a lot by, just using what is already there. So I'm actually improving on these specific, it's mine, but the one I'm failing to edit. But I actually created this work using another account. That's why I can't edit. But regardless, you can, once you visit this link, what you can do is you can just make a copy. So I can also actually make a copy from this. So just click here where the name is, then you just duplicate it to your draft. So once you duplicate it or make a new copy, you will be able to actually have edit access. You have a new copy that you can actually edit and play around. So under this file, actually created sort of like a design style guide that can help you navigate these specific designs. Under these designs, you'll find out that there are so many components that you can actually play around. For example, there are inputs, there are buttons, there are cards, so many designs of cards, different versions. You can come here and play around with these areas so that you can get to know how to actually play around with the rectangles, the text, the color, so that you can actually get to learn more about this specific tool and how you can actually use it. So we have frames, text, rectangles, fills, shades. All of this is in this specific file. So feel free to delete, add, play around with it, depending on how you would want to actually start learning. So I think I'll be making another video to go through this specific design so that people can actually learn better. So moving on, the next slide is, you need to actually get to know the design blocks in Figma. So Figma, you can actually use it in different ways. But one of the ways that I would want to actually advise you to use it is, let me just create a new file. So just come here to a logo, and then under file, there's this option for new design file. So I just want to take you through this concept of what the building blocks, or the building blocks of design are, so you can actually get to know them in relation to Figma. The first building block is actually an empty frame. So regardless of how you start designing, or regardless of what you do, you always start with a new file, an empty one. Actually, that's why I actually added this word empty. So you will start with an empty file, and then you will start with a line, because instead of a line, you can also start with a rectangle, but regardless, a rectangle comes from a line. So you realize that with just a simple line, you can come up with multiple elements with just a simple line. For example, you can actually use this line to come up with a rectangle. So you can use this same line by copying it multiple times. You can come up with like a rectangle by scaling down the lines, rotating them a bit. You can come up with like a very different sort of like shape, depending on how on what you want to do. So this shows you that for you to actually come up with like design sort of like outputs or design blocks that you can use to build these experiences, you need to start with an empty frame, a line, and then you can eventually form a component. So a component can actually just have, for example, a rectangle and then some text to sort of like form a component. For example, this can be sort of like a text input component that you can use to sort of like come up with multiple sort of like components to sort of like come up with a login sort of like page, or even sign up page. So this shows you that from an empty frame, you can use lines to come up with elements, and you can use elements to come up with components. for example, actually an element and a component are not that different, because a component can be as simple as an element, and then it can be as complex as an entire sort of like future that does something to hold other features. So design can actually get that complex, but it all shows that it just starts with a simple line. So moving on, realize that from this, we actually form a page. So eventually, once maybe you add like a button here, actually to create a button, just need a rectangle plus some text again. Are you seeing? So rectangles, text lines, you will never ever escape them once you're designing in Figma. I just need to, sorry, I just need to bring this to a front, and then this can actually be our action actually. So this can be our action. I can actually also select, I can actually center them. So on top of this, we can have our heading here. We can have a heading. So you see, we have a page now from a simple sort of like components that we had eventually, come up with. So this shows you that design essentially is just made up of these simple building blocks. Moving on, not actually moving on, but concluding, this is how we would want to actually conclude. Don't always actually focus on designing, because designing doesn't actually take time. For example, I've just taken like a few minutes to design this, but it's also something functioning, or something worth it, or something that can actually be used to sort of like explain something. So it has like some value per se. So it shows you that although it has value, it doesn't have like the connected bits. It's not really a fully fledged sort of like design to serve like a purpose, like the scalar sort of like design file I showed you in the design, in the Figma community. So I realized that always focus on the bigger picture, so that you always come up with designs quite faster, join them, prototype them, form experiences quite faster, because that is what people actually want. Remember, just so that people don't actually care about the type of design tool you use, but rather the output that you trying to put forward. So as a designer, always remember that the bigger picture is always the most important bit of it. So moving forward, the next part I would want to take you through before we actually conclude this specific workshop is the book of the week. So the book of the week, since we've been talking about UI UX, since we've been talking about designing in Figma and design in general, the book of the week is called Practical UI by Adam. Yeah, Adam. I don't know if I'm I'm not really good at pronouncing names, but Danaway is the guy that wrote this book, Practical UI. You can actually get this book from Practical UI dash. Sorry, you can get it from practical-ui.com. So get this book. I've read this book, and this book is going to show you that design comes from making things simple, and this guy shows you that there are simple principles and rules that you can use to design enjoyable UI elements that you can use to create better user experiences. So I advise you to actually go read this book so that you can actually, embark on your design journey. So in conclusion, we would want to urge you to stay connected, follow us, Twitter, LinkedIn, so that you always follow our hashtags and don't miss out on anything. We have lots of workshops coming up. We have lots of information regarding his experience design part for you that you'll be consuming. So I wish that you can follow us, then stay connected, join the community, talk to an expert, and then follow us on all our social media platforms. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next workshop. Bye.